Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this episode of A Break in the Clouds with none other than Penny Kelly. You can find her work here on YouTube at Penny Kelly and also on her website at consciousnessonfire.com and also on Patreon at patreon.com/Penny Kelly. Penny, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here. I can't believe a month has gone by since we talked.
Man, and what a month it's been. If you look at the news cycle, it feels like, I don't know, 5 years has gone by. Like so many things. We can't even possibly recap everything here, but maybe we could start here. Okay, preface this conversation here tonight. We want to have, of course, an adult conversation as always. We want to share ideas. We want to look at some possibilities, I guess is the way to say it, and to judge whether or not those possibilities are in our field of view and how we should maybe prepare and respond to them. Is that a good way to maybe preface the show? What do you say?
I think that's a good way to start. Yeah. You know, it's about ideas. If we can't discuss ideas as a people, we're lost.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Do you want to start here? Do you have any either look-see or pre-look-see data that you want to share with the audience, or maybe repeat some of the things that we might not have gone through in the last show? We had so many topics to go in. Last time we didn't get to all of it. Maybe we want to start there. The mic is yours.
Okay. All right. I wanted to repeat. I think I said this on last month's when we talked last month, but I wanted to repeat it because it came up again and again and again. And it was this was part of the look-see for November, and it's American bankers who are part of the cabal want to begin bail-ins. But they know that people will erupt if they do. So they try looting other countries, small countries, but to no avail. When they try this in a small country that I thought was somewhere in Malaysia that didn't have nearly as many resources or fancy tech tools as the cabal had, it turned out to be a really bad mistake because it set off a chain reaction involving snipers and or assassins. The cabal was already under attack, is already under attack in other places. And this attempt in Malaysia became a turning point that marked the end of cabal effectiveness. And there have been a few things I've read that have said, okay, this is they're going down, they're starting to hide. And so the next thing that and I don't know if I said this last time, but I really want to share it because I think it's even more relevant than it was if I said it last time, that there are big bumps for the government, like huge bumps, like pushback you can't even get your mind around. The military splits.
Is this for October or November?
This is for November 15 to December 15.
Okay, I'm going to bring up some data here from Clefai too that correlates to that, but keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So big bumps, huge bumps for the government. The military splits, it like breaks apart, some taking the people's side and others sticking with the government. People are very angry. Some kind of trigger event has happened, like a proclamation, and the result is a fierce and absolute refusal to go along with it, as well as a sort of whiplash effect on the population. So the interesting thing, the energy that I picked up in relationship to this point in time is that the powers that be are having a reaction that I would characterize it as, well, it's about time you people stood up, looking at us, talking about us. And, you know, when I picked that up, I thought, what? It's as if they want the people to erupt. They want the people to get angry enough to take down the entire system so they could then say to the people, we didn't do anything. You did it. You're the ones who destroyed the whole thing yourselves. But that was exactly the goal, to have the people tear it apart, because their plan is to step in and make carefully timed suggestions, that have all been decided on prior to the takedown, and that will resolve the situation just the way they want it to be resolved. I'm not sure they will be able to pull it off the way they think they will, but they're moving ahead with their plan, and they're trying to keep all the plates spinning, and it looks like they don't succeed because they waited too long. They're too divided among themselves. They're too desperate, and they have not been able to resolve the financial problem. They have a serious financial problem, and the reaction from the people is much more ferocious than they expected. A few snipers and assassins that work in the background have taken out some key cabal people or just disappeared them. And the result is that the cabal are stretched so thin, or is stretched so thin in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that some are feeling is hopeless. It's like, oh my God, they're feeling the same thing we are. It's hopeless. Some of the cabal are fearfully thinking they're probably going to leave this life. They're going to be killed or die or something. Some are thinking, oh, it's kind of an oh shit moment. They're thinking that they should have given up a long time ago and taken their chances with forgiveness before the people got so angry. That's a huge shift in the people that are supposedly arrayed against us. So, a couple other things I would mention is that more and more states and countries declare an end to the virus charade and the mandates. Just like, nope, done with that. We're done. and we're not having any part of that, and you will go to jail if you try to enforce that, And
is that for November? Is that for November also?
What's that?
Sorry, I think we have a bit of a lag. Is that also for November in the same time frame?
Yeah, that's actually December through January.
Okay.
But it's already happening. I think it's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see here. A couple other things. I thought this was interesting. Pfizer is under investigation for medical fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle for those vying for control of the U.S. It continues. So it's like, are we not done yet? So that's there were some other comments about China really getting more and more shaky, but I'll save that for the actual look-see because I want to refine that a little bit. The other thing that I saw, and I saw this in September, and I thought it was just a quick flash, and I thought, no, that's not, I don't know what that was. It looked like war, looked like fighting, kinetic fighting. And then when I was doing the October look-see, I saw it again, and I thought, no, I don't see any signs of that out in the world. And of course, I didn't really look either. But this time when I was doing the November look-see, it was, I had to say it. There's war or fighting of some kind. This is in the December 15th to January 15th time frame.
Mm-hmm.
This is the third time I've seen this, but I left it out of earlier look-sees in September and October because it was just a quick flash of a vision. This time, it was not a quick flash. It was a scene of actual fighting. And the entire feeling was that we were at war. I will say it could be either symbolic or literal. And we just have to watch and wait and see what happens. So that's basically it. The other thing I saw was that there's more and more people coming out against Trump, which I was kind of surprised at. So that's a kind of a sum up for what's happening.
there's a lot there. I took a few notes there. Let's start with this idea of war, just because you ended on that.
Yeah.
In my last interview with Cliff and Jason at 4 here on YouTube, we were able to squeeze this one through by watching some of our language. Cliff is still seeing that it's a possibility that we have this hot kinetic war break out. So it's still in his cards also, and it's kind of funny, kind of the way you're seeing it too. He sees pockets here, there, and then suddenly it's there. So again, we're having this discussion about possibilities, and if those are possibilities, then what do we as humans do to maybe either get ourselves out of harm's way, protect ourselves, or push out our intentions into universe to remold the future that we want without that war in the timeline. So again, these are all the reasons why we're having these conversations. What's interesting about the timeline you just put out too, about November and December, in this video here, the shape of Wu to come, this was the one that was posted this morning here from Cliff. He talks about a confluence of this narrative breakdown in all of these different attention markets, whether those are sports, governments, financial, whatever it is, we're seeing a breakdown in that narrative now. And what he was saying is that probably sometime end of November, maybe as early as the end of November into December, or maybe as late as January, hard to tell, that all of these competing attention markets would kind of all glob together in this law of attraction video. He went into a little bit of a detail, this one, Woo of Attraction, and he actually put that on the board for people to understand. And he's saying that at that point, we've lost so much, or we call them the bug here. They've lost such control over the narrative that if you're a sports person, you understand about the people who are hurting small people, to say it that way. And if you're looking to the finance, then you realize that all these sports athletes are dying all of a sudden, and you're seeing rap concerts where people are dying all of a sudden. And so basically all of these things start to coagulate together, and this awakening takes a rapid acceleration. I don't think that's the word he used, but you were just alluding to that. And then suddenly, we've had this conversation, Cliff and I, before, on, I believe, on the Uncensored show, where it says that once we hit that acceleration wall, that's where we get a lot of the anger and the pushback and the people fighting back suddenly. And then that's what you're describing now. So he didn't mention that per se in this Woo of Attraction video, that the anger was coming towards it, but it feels very much like it's timely now. So that's interesting. It's another point of view here that's bringing also very similar data and timeframes to you. The thing about the banks, I need to ask you, were you seeing the banks North America or banks worldwide deciding to do that bail-in legislation? Were you talking worldwide or here in North America, or both?
It was here in North America mostly, but there were some in Europe as well. The banking system is in a bad way. I want to trust it every so often. It looks like we're going to ease into something new. And then the next time I look, it's like, all heck has broken loose, and we have absolute chaos. And there's all kinds of people freaking out over their money. And if it's not money, it's over their food or over, what they can't get to, put gas in their car or whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of difficulties that we are going to have unless we get together and cooperate as people. Unless, and I have to say, it's really hard to think that we could do anything when you stop to think that the whole world is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. Those two companies are everything.
Right.
Everything.
Okay, so the reason I asked you about the banks, in my last interview, I believe it was with Bill Holter earlier this week, I talked about this phenomena we're seeing now in the periphery. So, when cancer starts, it kind of starts outside and then it eventually attacks the major organs of the host here.
Right.
Now in Nigeria, they're talking about, 600 and I don't know, this is ATMs and then a couple of hundred banks closing. And what they're saying is that people are basically moving away from that, going into digital, going into crypto. So there's already the problem of the Ponzi scheme coming towards the end and this lack of liquidity. We're seeing it here with the repo market and all that. But now we're seeing an exodus also. And this is also what the mainstream don't want to talk to you about, the crypto, the gold, and the silver getting out of the system. So what we're seeing here, and Cliff was alluding to that, I believe in the video from today too, says it's not normal that we're seeing these bank mergers here. If the market was so great and there was enough people going around using banking services, you wouldn't see one bank eating another bank eating another bank, like we're seeing now here in North America. So he was expressing his opinion that here too we're starting to see those telltale signs here that the banking system is starting to basically what's the word? Cannibalize itself, basically, because of a lower and lower demand for their products and services. And so here's the big thing from his video, I believe yesterday. He points out that this last infrastructure bill that Biden just pushed through here over the last couple of days was the last temporal marker he was looking for here that really bakes into the cake this massive hyperinflation and then panic into own of crypto, gold, and silver. That was it. We're basically, that's the starter pistol. We're there, and it's now baked in the cake to the point where we have government officials at some point, buying a cup of coffee for $100, deciding to quit their job because their money they're getting paid with is worthless. This was that last piece he was looking for. Let's talk that. How does that fit in with your view here of the that panic to hone or that hyperinflation that really is still, even though the mainstream media is telling you, oh, it's just transitory, or it might stay a little bit longer, they're still clinging to inflation. They don't want to say the word hyperinflation yet, and they certainly don't want to talk about panic to own into other asset classes. So what are you seeing in your data, and what's your point of view on all of this?
The point that I had seen was that we hit a really low point emotionally around the last week of November. And then like the middle of December, I'm not sure what exactly blows up, but I have some thoughts on that. I know from talking to some of my own sources that in December, there's going to be the release of a really serious documentary about the criminal activities being done to children, little people. And that I have worried for many years now, many, 3 or 4, that videos or movies or photos would come out because I didn't want that to come out, because you can't forget something like that once you see it. And it is so angering when you see those kinds of pictures. It is so shocking that my feeling was that people would just explode, and they would take, mid-December, they would take down everything and everybody, even people that didn't need to be taken down. And my concern was, how would we restore order? How would we get back to peace? Where would forgiveness fit in there? It's all of that. And one of the casualties of that was the banking system that went at the same time. And I don't know why those two things happen at the same time. Maybe it's just, the banking system is just strung out so far, it just can't hold together anymore.
Or it's connected to this energy extraction matrix and this network of hurting small people. It's all connected to the banking system. That's part of, you and I kind of did this show on the pay-per-view where we talked about.
I forgot about that.
Right. Yeah. So they are absolutely intertwined. And a lot of other seers had said too that we wouldn't see the banking system go until we saw the reality of how pervasive and invasive this network of hurting small people actually is. Right. And again, Cliff is on the same point. He was thinking maybe October or November that this information would come out. And this is also part of what he was saying that would wake up a whole new cadre of normies who up to this point have not really paid attention to all of this. Then suddenly that would galvanize a big base there.
Yeah.
And he's also almost crying every time he thinks about that, of what that actually means to have that conversation for the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said he saw that coming out in November. That documentary was going to come out in November, and then it was delayed until December. So if it does come out, that's going to be a hard pill for us to swallow.
Well, even for us who've been studying this, imagine the people who, for the longest time, like, no, 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 that doesn't exist. It's just a few crazy people, Jean-Claude. It's not a network. Nah, our politicians, all the way down to the Child Protective Services, they're not involved in that. No, 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 that's just conspiracy.
No,
Okay.
unfortunately. I think
Right.
once people understand that children were the currency of that system, it'll be a huge wake up. It'll be a tragic moment it'll be a shameful, embarrassing moment for us as people. What we're going to ask ourselves is, what was I paying attention to? Why didn't I know this?
How did I not see that? Right.
That's right.
Oh, wait, my neighbor told me. Oh, yeah, and that crazy guy across the street
Yeah.
told me. And what was that guy's name, Jean-Claude? Something BeyondMystic? Yeah, he told us, but I wasn't listening. No. Okay, let's shift gears because you were talking about finances here, and so our Jacques on the screen is saying, yeah, get your silver. A little means a lot right now. So Cliff was just saying in that last video about this Biden bill here galvanizing our move into this hyperinflation and then panic to own, both in cryptos and also metals, but also metals into cryptos. So he had two categories there for the metals.
Okay.
Now, I talked to Bill Holter earlier this week in this video. Guys, go check it out. Fascinating video. Now, he's not a guy that you would consider woo-woo. He's a very technical guy, but he's coming out with the same dates as you. For some reason, him and the boys at JS Mindset, Jim Sinclair and all that, they're all looking at, wait a second, something's wrong here. If you're looking at the big institutional houses, they are all scrambling right now to take physical gold and silver off of the COMEX in a rapid clip like never seen before, just like they're expecting something to happen. Why are they doing this now? So we're seeing that on that front. And what he was saying also too is that the supply is very tight. The Royal Canadian Mint is 2-3 weeks out now shipping. In the States, the US Mint has been delayed in some of their shipments. So something is happening to the physical supply here. And what Andy Sheckman was also saying in the show after this one is there's this new category now on the COMEX that they've titled the others. And nobody knows who they are, although we can kind of guess who they are. But these are the guys putting billions of dollars and standing for delivery. Who are these people and why are they doing this right now? Again, perhaps they know something, or perhaps they're listening to the Penny Kellys and the Cliff Highs of the world, but they're seeing something in the market that's telling them we're at the end game now and it's time to switch from this paper fiat currency into something maybe more safe or stable until we kind of figure out what it is that's going to replace it. Again, video from today with Cliff High, the Woo to come. Go check that out because he's talking about the system's breaking, but not the economy. And that's a point of hope here for a lot of people who think, oh, it's the end of the world. Whoa. Humans had an economy before the bug put the system on it to kind of scrape the top and basically take their cut and eat the host, so to speak. So we have a potential period of time here to go through and to figure things out here for ourselves. What do you want to add to that?
I would say, well, I guess a couple of things in terms of the financial system itself versus the economy. That you just, one of the things I've seen is over and over is that we sort of ease into a new system. That has always come from this little vision of the people, the powers that be, are going to deliberately collapse the old system so they can institute a new one. And so that might be the ease that we think we're seeing, even though some people get burned, etc. But then there's all those big banks. If they're are they standing for physical delivery? That's because they want to survive in maybe some new form or format that they can move forward with. That says to me that there's going to be some kind of disruption there, even if there's a deliberate collapse. and this carefully timed and beautifully presented new announcement of, okay, people, don't panic. We're just going to do this now. We're just going to do that. And, you know, bring your cash or your money or your trade it for this or whatever. And that it doesn't fly very long is the thing I've always seen. Is that
well, that's so exactly what Bill Holter and Jim Sinclair said. There's going to be this first reset where they're going to present to us new valuations, new systems, call it what you want.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everybody's going to say, yeah, no, I'm not going to cut it. You guys lied to us on the first one. We don't trust you. And then we would see an organic reset that's really repriced by the market, as opposed to by the powers that be deciding how everything should be. Organics, humans would decide how things are going to be. So they're seeing two resets here.
Yeah. Okay. I have to say this other thing as well.
Go ahead.
That has come up more than once. While all of this financial system chaos is, I'll call it chaos, but it's really kind of a controlled chaos. While all that's unfolding, it looks like the crypto stuff goes way up and then goes boom, way down. Like nobody's paying attention to crypto. Everybody's getting out of it. But in the end, we go back to a crypto-based or crypto-type system. So the thing that I've seen is that there's a big drop. We maybe don't go up as high as I had hoped. You know, my hope was the crypto is going to go up and I'm going to pay off my house and I'm going to say, okay, I'm ready for whatever. But I don't know that it's going to go up as much as I originally had thought or had hoped. And if it does, it goes up quickly and then comes down quickly. And so if you're not ready to do your transactions, you're screwed. So that seems to be happening at a time. I'm going to say what I saw. This is not good. That there are interruptions in the internet over the period of Christmas, New Year's, and the start of the first part of January. And that's exactly when everything is falling. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you can't get online to do anything. Mm-hmm. You know, if you haven't planned, like I didn't want to trade in any crypto this year. I wanted to do it in 2022. And so it's like, okay.
Well, let me add to that, because I'm tracking with you maybe 5 or 6 different sources that are kind of alluding to the same thing you're just saying.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'll give you some timing in what I'm thinking and what these guys are thinking also. And they're trying to be very strategic because they're seeing something similar to what you're describing. Okay. Now, in terms of the panic to own that Cliff High was talking about, Joe and I put a lot of time here putting this course together. It's 2.5 hour course. This is for the person who knows nothing about crypto and who just realizes, as the web bot was saying, oh my God, this is the new system. What I've been waiting for. All these guys were right all along. We're eventually going to this crypto, even though we might have a downside here, which we'll get to in a minute. Right. But people go into this panic mode. So Joe and I put this educational course together. It's really for the newbie who starts, how to get their exchange set up, how to get their wallet set up, like the important stuff, how to do it safely with your passwords and all that stuff. And on top of that, there was an article earlier today saying that 4% of Americans already quit their jobs because of crypto. So these are the new millionaires here setting the stage for the new world, right? And Joe's one of those. You've heard his stories before. Yeah. And so anyways, not only are we giving a course here on how to do it, Joe's actually sharing also what's in his wallet. So just that alone is worth more than the course here. And some of these courses go from $200 to $1,000. We have it at $111, and with the coupon code "Don't Panic," it's down to $99. So really, there's a lot in there for you guys at $99. Go check it out. But in terms of timing, what's interesting here, what you just said, we're seeing other people, remote viewers also, other psychics, are seeing this weird crash in December.
Right.
Okay. And what they're saying is, similar to you, we come back to it. Now, the crash could be a combination of maybe 2 or 3 different factors. One of them is some type of huge event that puts pressure on the crypto in terms of maybe margin calls. So if you looked at an Evergrande contagion event where a lot of these big firms have to suddenly come up with margin, they might sell crypto very quickly or gold and silver very quickly to cover, to not go under. Of course, this would create a cascading effect when you look at all the algorithms and the way people behave in crypto, in all markets for that point.
Right.
There's that. There's also this sentiment here close to or around $100,000 Bitcoin. Now, this has been in the Webbot data for a long time. And now human consciousness, a lot of people who maybe didn't sell a $20,000 crypto Bitcoin. You remember that year it went from a 1,000 to 20,000 and then back down to 4,000.
Right.
A lot of those people said, never again. When we get to a certain number, I'm going to sell this time and take profits and do what you just said. Pay the house, pay the car, pay the student loans, whatever it is.
Right.
That too could, en masse, create a downward pressure on the market, perhaps at the same time as this contagion event. So you see, all of these things seem to be colliding. And at the same time, we have this hyperinflation event that's now baked in the cake. If you look at this last infrastructure bill that was just approved, that would also create
that's crazy
out of this. So all of these things are pointing to some difficulty in the financial system. So a lot of people might look to take refuge, take profits. We're hearing a lot of people saying, I'm going to take profits and put it into gold and silver as I wait to decide which of these cryptos are coming back in this new world, and which humans decide, because again, there's two resets here. There's the first one by the official them, and then the one after that, humans decide, you know what, we're all going to use Dogecoin. I'm giving an example, right? or whatever it is, right? And then humans decide, based out of mass usage and popular usage, what they want. So maybe that's when people start getting back into crypto, then getting into crypto similar to what Reggie Middleton was proposing with Veritasium, and getting into somewhere they might be having some gold or silver backing, or maybe trimetallic backing, as David Morgan was saying. So that's all, like, guys, it's an exciting time, but at the same time, you need to educate yourself here, because this is going to be a really wild ride for sure. So what are your thoughts on all of that?
You know, I had the thought while you were talking that if everybody is thinking that it's going to crash the end of December, they're likely to sell and cause a crash. So that may be a big factor in it. The other thing that I see happening, that infrastructure bill, that is, there's no way. There's just no way that that's going to go anywhere, or it's going to, I think it's going to take the system down the rest of the way. It's not real. We don't have any backing for that. The banks still do not have access to any of the codes to create new money. The problem with the banks not being able to access new money is that if we're socking it away, they have less and less and less to deal with. So the result is, if they want to do something new, like Biden's green plan or whatever he wants to do with that infrastructure thing, he's got to come up with new money. And that is not they don't have access to that new money anymore. And the Fed, it's not well known that the Fed does not have they do not have permission to generate new money. So, you know, there's a lot of... And
on top of that, the rest of the world is getting out of bonds. So they're de-dollarizing. So that's another problem for the Fed. All of this is happening at the same time, folks. There's a lot going on. Somebody just said, I'll know the world is getting at a better place when JC wears a white t-shirt during his show. Okay, yes, I always wear black t-shirts during my show. So when you see me with a white t-shirt, you'll know.
Okay.
I forgot who said that. It scrolled a little bit earlier, but thank you, whoever said that. That was absolutely funny. Going back to the silver, though, very quickly, Cliff was saying in his video today too, and he made a point of saying it. Of course, he had the $600 silver prediction for Christmas for a long time. You've talked about the $600-$700, and then maybe up to $2,000 in next February, something like that, 2022. But in his last video, he said 600 plus silver. 600 is just a beginning to show you that we're into this phase now where this hyperinflation has kicked in. It's baked into the cake. And we're moving into a complete revaluation of our assets world. So, guys, if you're looking for physical silver, check out this last a special that was brought to us by Miles Franklin. This was put together just for the episode here, Hi Ho Silver with Bill Holter. That's Bill and his horse, Principe. So go check it out. That's beyondmystic.net/Hi Ho Silver. And there you can get those 1 ounce silver Krugerrands on sale, and also those 10 ounce bars if you're interested in those. Absolutely great price for the volume there. So I've just put that in the live chat. So where are you on that silver front? Are you still holding to some of those predictions? Are you tighter on the numbers, the dates, or anything's changing in your field of view?
I haven't changed anything. I still see that it starts creeping up, you know, toward the end of this month, and then just keeps on going up. I will share that I went to, there's a little place where I go to get silver now and then when I think I can afford some. And so I went in to get some, and I said, I'll take a whole tube. And they, and then I'm standing there and I thought, well, maybe I could take 2. And they said, no, you're limited to 1. And I said, what? Why? Because we're having a hard time getting it. And I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, the whole it's getting harder to get concept is not a joke. And so I was like, okay. They were offering to sell Krugerrands if I wanted them, but I didn't want them. I just wanted the cheap silver.
Yeah. Well, Andy Sheckman was saying that this week on the Thursday call too. Says, JC, we're having trouble getting stuff right now, and he says we're an authorized dealer, and we've pre-ordered a lot of it, so we have a lot of inventory. But getting new stuff in here, and like right now we're selling from our inventory, but getting new stuff in here, projecting for next month and the month after, it's getting really tight. And there's something weird again happening with the Royal Canadian Mint and the mint in the States. So weird times, guys. So again, not financial advice, but what was it? Rob Kirby, when he was on my show, he says, JC, like, listen, you guys are you know, you got to think about this. Everybody in the world has already de-dollarized. If you're still holding paper, you're the last one. So really, this is happening. It's not about to happen. It's happening. It's in a process. And like any bankruptcy, people ask you, well, how'd you go bankrupt? Well, slowly at first, and then all of a sudden, right? And so we're there. We're almost there at the all of a sudden. For silver at 600, you've seen it at 2,000 maybe by February of next year. Like, can you imagine an ounce compared to the 23, 4, or 5 it's at today, whatever it's at? That's absolutely crazy. But that's indicative of this hyperinflation that is now baked in the cake. So would you rather have that as an insurance policy or your retirement fund? That's another thing with the retirement funds. Talk about what the little men in the brown robes talked about way back in the 80s about what would happen to some of those systems.
That basically they wouldn't be there, that they would come apart, that we would discover, you know, I actually didn't write this, but this was part of what they showed me, that we would discover that a lot of the accounting numbers was basically, what would you call it? Creative accounting, and that there was no reality to back up what was on the paper. And that was a huge disaster for quite a few people who were living on their pension, and the pension was suddenly gone. And and then a lot of people who were on Social Security, there was no Social Security. That was gone. But the other thing that I've often thought about this, people were not paying their taxes. Nobody, I mean, everybody, and I often have thought that the refusal to pay taxes followed the truth about what was happening with the children. So, and by the way, let me say, I saw a question or a comment go by, said, put on your big girl pants, Penny, and say what's really happening with the children. No, we can't. Otherwise, this whole conversation will not be allowed up anywhere on YouTube or anything.
Somebody last week in the show, I was trying to figure out the right words to bring the idea across. And somebody in the show said, "Oh, JC, you're just being too careful. This is my third backup channel. I know what I'm talking about."
I know. I just got rid of one of my strikes on Halloween. It's like, oh my
I
God.
know, this is crazy. Hey,
Yeah.
Ashley says JC needs to make a Beyond Mystic t-shirt. Actually, I'm working on that. A lot of people are asking for t-shirts and mugs and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to get that on the website here very soon. It's just I create all these videos every day. I never have time to work on the website. But anyway.
Maybe I should connect you to my daughter. She's making t-shirts for me and cups.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, maybe.
Like that. Yeah. It's
okay.
So
mine going back to the
Beyond Mystic, though.
Right. Well, thank you. I might take you up on that. So going back to the robes here, I asked you because you and I have talked offline about this, and I know some of things didn't make it to the book, and this was one of them. And it's important to bring it into the conversation now. I guess in those days, a lot of the things there were just didn't make any sense. But today, the idea of not paying taxes, we're getting there, because I'm hearing normal people now, and this was the last conversation, I think Friday night or Saturday night with friends. Some people told me, like, JC, these people are trying to hurt us. One, and I'll choose my words here. And two, they're preventing us from getting services that we pay for through our taxes because we don't want to go along with their narrative. So why the hell are we paying them? They just broke the social contract. Bingo. So if more people wake up to that, at one point do you say, hey, wait a second. So now suddenly what's in the robes makes a lot of sense. Whereas maybe 20, 30 years ago, you would have said that, people would say, well, I don't see that. Right. We're here now. Yeah.
There were two factors that caused people to stop paying taxes. One was that they were so sick and they were so stressed that they were taking care of the children, they were taking care of their parents and their grandparents and their, cousins and uncles, whoever. People were refusing to go to hospitals. And so the families were taking care of the sick ones. And there was just a lot of that. And so their attitude was, don't bother me with paperwork right now. Just get off my back. And the other thing was, I'm not paying those guys to be putting my money where I now know they were putting it. And it was about the children.
Right.
And the corruption. And it was the last straw.
You just said something here too that cued me. You just said, so sick, taking care of children, taking care of adults. What's going on? Did they tell you why they were sick? Because now, of course, we'll choose our language. But just in the last week, we seem to be on this trajectory. And I'll say seem to be, just to be fair. But if the trend continues, we might have some serious problems here. We're getting the athletes die in the field. We're getting pilots have some issues while flying. We're seeing submarine commanders hit stuff underwater. We're seeing NASA space flights being delayed. We're seeing young people have heart attacks at concerts. Okay, so this is the conversation that Penny and I was trying to have maybe a month ago, where we said, if indeed this happens, and I know perhaps some people took the placebo, and I know some people might be working on some cures, which we've heard about so far. That's true. That's in the field too. But up until the time where we have an honest conversation about this in our media, there's still people being maimed, damaged, and or killed by what's going on, right? Yeah. And so for those people, that's going to have ramifications to their friends and families. Yeah. And so if you're in the vicinity of some of those people who took the products, you might find yourself now suddenly having to take care of their kids, to take care of the father, the mother, whoever, right? So this is the conversation.
Exactly what happened.
In the robes? Okay, explain that. Okay, let's get into that, because this is the conversation we need to have so that people can start thinking of, well, if that's the case in my immediate family, what role am I going to be hoisted into, whether I want to or not, in 2-3 months from now? And what can I do now to prepare for that role, right? If we have that conversation, you're at least a mile ahead of everybody else who hasn't even thought about that yet. Because again, these are serious ramifications on the family structure, on a political structure, real estate. Cliff High is talking about a lot of people just abandoning houses. We need to have this conversation. So share with us what perhaps the robes told you about this.
They said, well, I saw the deaths. I saw a lot of deaths. And some of those deaths were from what I'm going to say we are facing right now in terms of the virus or the injectable. Some of them were starvation, malnutrition, severe malnutrition, because there wasn't enough food. And some of it was that the people in some regions were so divided, so angry that there were little tiny civil wars going on everywhere. Now, I do know that just recently I was reading some of what's his name, Martin Armstrong stuff, and he says absolutely there's going to be a global civil war. I'm like, global? How do you have a global civil war? Who's fighting who? But when I was with the Robes, what they said was everybody is fighting everybody over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a total breakdown of society. Everybody is angry, father against son, brother against brother. I was just so discouraged when I saw that. It was hard to write about it. So there was the fighting, and I never was clear about why well, they did say some of the things why people were fighting. Some were fighting for the old world, some were fighting for the new, some were fighting to get rid of corporations, some were, different things. All small. I mean, they weren't global issues, but they were very pertinent to each individual who was caught up in it. So there was all of that. And then there were the shortages of food because there was just no food. And people who didn't take action early to set up to grow at least something really, really suffered. There was a lot of mobility happening. So people were moving around and other people were shooting them, saying, get off my property. We don't want any strangers here, because they didn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole virus thing and the effort. I did see, and I did put this in the book, that they were going to try to legislate that you had to have proof that you were healthy in order to get into restaurants and churches and movie theaters and any public place, and that would be one of the last straws that took down the rest of society, that took down the rest of civil society.
Mm-hmm.
And the result was that there was just this absolute and utter chaos. And then because of that, the level and the widespread amount of fighting, it really was a case where when the fighting was over or started to slow down, people everywhere were just lost. Individuals lost, they lost their spouse, or they lost their child, or they lost their mother, or that whatever. And so people were reorganizing to come together. There were some families that were still intact, but a lot of people had their families just totally ripped apart. Mm-hmm. And they were reorganizing into these groups. And they, the groups sometimes were in a bunch of tents, and then they gravitated to, well, look at that city is empty.
All those houses are empty on that street.
Yeah, let's take over some of those. And there was no authorities.
Yeah.
So they settled or squatted, I guess would be the term, the technical term.
Mm-hmm.
And then gradually began to evolve an entirely new form of social organization, communication, et cetera, a whole new way of life. Yeah. That was incredibly mindful of what do you need to know to survive. That was number one. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Yeah, those after we know how to survive. Mm-hmm. In other words, how do you shoot? How do you feed yourself? How do you heal yourself? Those were the big three.
Mm-hmm. Somebody in the chat is saying, what about UFOs? So let's talk about some of the extraterrestrial hindrances And also some of the help, because it goes
Yeah,
both ways here, just as above, so
right.
below. So what's your latest intel, perhaps, on some of the things that are happening in space? We just saw the last couple of days that NASA was shooting this rocket or something at this asteroid in an attempt to defend Earth. So it's kind of like, okay, I know that's not the real story, but something's going on and they're covering for something else
Right.
here. So, as always, never a straight answer from NASA.
I know.
So, what are your thoughts on that right now? What's
Well,
what's it looking like? Do we have help right now? Are they sitting on the sidelines waiting for us? Like, who's doing what?
we have help, but the help is mostly encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
I did just recently go, I broke a rule and I went out to visit and just appeared on board one of the ships and said, I need some answers. And I didn't get really very satisfactory answers, but I got some. And the answers were that people will suffer. That was one of the, it's like, what is going on here? And there's, I think Daphne may have put it out on YouTube already. I think it's on Patreon as well. But it's a little conversation. It was very brief. It was very to the point because they don't mince words. They're not chatty like we are. So, but it's clear they want us to stand up for ourselves, and then they will back us up, support us, but they're not going to lift a finger if they don't see us out there with everything we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Heart and soul, and and our words, our actions, it all has to be in support of something new, something that brings people together. So there was conversation about I asked about the solar flare, the micronova, and they said it is coming. And I said, this is what they said: it is coming. People will suffer. And I was like, oh. So then I said, well, could I be picked up? So then, the response was, yeah, we'll pick up, your consciousness will be picked up. Well, then that triggered a whole bunch of other stuff where I was like, oh, okay.
Mm.
So I think the goal, the main thing that we have to be aware of is that there are people here, they are supporting us in unseen ways, a little boost when we need it, a little protection when we need it, a little encouragement, a little bravery, a little courage, a little insight, a little more understanding when we need it. So that's where it's at right now. But the excitement among them is pretty high because they feel that we're doing more than they expected us to do, and that they are greatly encouraged by that. They want us to make this leap in consciousness and awareness and in action, which is the action to build a new world.
Right.
So there you have it.
And before we do that, a lot of us need to wake up still, because otherwise this nightmare will continue much longer. And so, but we're seeing signs of it now with all of these things that are baked in the cake. This awakening is quickening. Daphne just sent me the link. This is the conversation with your friends. Okay, so let me bring that back down to the live chat here for you guys. So that is on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was also looking at the Patreon. I think it was there too, and of course, you can see my page is still suspended. I can't access my own page, but I can access the people I support, of course.
Okay, sorry about that.
So this is your Patreon. So folks, go check her out on Patreon too. There's a lot of things, of course, here that still cannot be said on YouTube. So Penny does a great job putting this content here on her Patreon. So do go and check that out. Penny, somebody was asking, you mentioned solar flares, and somebody put a question up there too. Here we go. I don't know what the question was. I saw it scroll by quickly. I just produced this video with Janine also just last week, I believe it was, on solar flares and what perhaps was happening, who was trying to prevent some of those flares from hitting the planet, and why. And some of the things we came up with was like, okay, that was fascinating. Can you share with the audience your understanding here with what's happening either with the solar flares or maybe what Dr. Paul Laviolette calls the galactic superwaves? how it does affect humans, wakes up DNA, wakes up memories and abilities perhaps in humans, and who are the people maybe in between some of these flares hitting the planet and what their agendas might be. You want to tackle that a little bit here on the show?
Yeah, sure. I did a lot of research on this because I was really pretty upset when I first discovered, the science that's behind all this. Like, oh no. But the science is pretty heavy. I wrote about it in Volume 4, Consciousness and Energy, Volume 4. And I was going through my own, sort of a death experience, that maybe this is all hopeless, it's useless, it's whatever. But I knew, as part of the entire research into consciousness that I've been involved in for 40 years, that consciousness, it's all consciousness, number one. Two, the second thing to be aware of is that if you know how to use your consciousness and you can connect with that sun or that wind or that rain or that ocean or whatever, you can have an impact on that. And that is really one of the big reasons why we have so many people on the planet right now. Years ago, like 25 years ago, I was talking to one of my people saying, and I was all into this whole thing about sustainability, and we have to reduce the people on the planet. There's too many, it's too crowded. And they said, you absolutely need every one of those people, those consciousnesses, because you're going to need them to come together to create or to make something happen. And it didn't say what. And I was like, well, like what? Yeah. No clue.
Right.
That they left me dangling with that. And then as I was working with the information about the solar flash or the micronova or the wave, whatever you want to call it, the sun literally is an electromagnetic, it's an electric light. Mm-hmm. And every so often it resynchronizes with the rest of the universe, and it blows off a lot of stuff. That's called the micronova, or the solar sneeze or whatever. And that, if we as a population can come together with enough power of consciousness to say to that sun, blow the other way, it blows out in every direction, but it doesn't blow out evenly. Mm-hmm. And so we could have an impact, or we could ask some part of the universe, the solar sea, could you just form a barrier? Could you help? Or the wind or the water, ocean, would you just stay in your tub, whatever it's called, in your spot? Don't be rolling across the land, which is one of the effects of the solar flash. Because when that poof hits the planet, it stops rotating for a few hours. And that sends the oceans right over the land. Everybody gets washed away. It's like, oh my God. But we have this consciousness that we are to use, and we were supposed to use it to develop the technology to get off the planet. But somehow that technology and that option was taken away. And
well, we were fooled in creating it for somebody else, and now we don't have access to it.
That's exactly right. So the what do you call it? The black projects and the people that took over all of that, and we're going to share that. They were supposed to share that back to the government. They didn't. Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, it's like
here we are. And you know what you said too?
68 years, that darn thing blows. And we're at 12,068 years in 2047. Mm-hmm. So that's, and there's a leeway, a couple hundred, maybe 50, 75 years either way. So maybe 100 leeway if you consider both sides.
There's that, and there might be a full maybe 1,000 year off also, because there seems to be evidence that we are not actually in 2021. There's researchers now coming to the conclusion that perhaps our calendar was also messed with, and perhaps to fool us in another direction, not thinking exactly or knowing exactly where we are in these celestial signs and
Okay.
times. So there's a lot of research there too. That's another deep rabbit hole. But again,
Yeah, it is.
yeah. But I like what you said about your friends, and I want to ask you a question on that. But your friends saying we need absolutely every one of those souls to come together to do what we're supposed to do. So not only do we need them all, but there's this other thing. When you were talking about sustainability, and I don't want to quash sustainability. Yes, we need to be better to the environment. There's a lot of things we can do and we're responsible for. But at the same time, this whole idea that there's too many people on the planet, blah, 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 to me is like, no, this is a planet of abundance. We're only being taught that there's scarcity so that we fight each other. All of the abundance is held back to this other group of people who perhaps are off world with it, and we're not allowed to it. But we need to fix that and realize that really it's abundance. It doesn't mean throw your trash everywhere. No, we still need to be sustainable and only use what we need. I understand that. But it is a world of abundance if only we can get this damn bug off our back. And I think this is also perhaps what all of these souls have to come together and do. Together we might have that chance, and I think we're coming up on exactly that chance right here, right now. We're in that time frame. How exciting to be alive, Penny.
Yeah, this is a very challenging time. I want to say something about sustainability, which I really wasn't planning to say, but one of the things that I think is really important is the people from other places, the OPs, are very reluctant to come here in many ways because it's so dirty, it's so polluted. The air is bad, the soil is bad, the food is bad, the water is bad. Everything is poisoned. And they know, it's like, I'm not subjecting myself to that. And they go to great lengths to maintain an absolutely clean environment for themselves, pure, water, pure food, high density nutrition food. And they have all of that on board their ships. And they do not like coming into our world because it takes them days to recover. They are incredibly sensitive and powerful. And they are that way because they have bothered to take charge of their environment and to make it absolutely clean and pure.
Pristine. Yeah.
Pristine. That's the word.
Let's talk about your friends. Can you share with us who your friends are?
Well, there's several.
Okay, let's just talk about this last one where you kind of broke the rules and went on the ship without permission. Let's talk about that. I've done that before, by the way. I've been slapped on the fingers a few times myself, and it was kind of weird. But I'm curious to hear your story and who those guys were precisely.
Okay. Well, there are people. There's three kinds of people that I deal with. One are some of the small grays. Then there are the tall ones, what I call the Pleiadians. They're really kind of Nordic looking. And then there are the tall ones that are the Gentrans, and they do not look Nordic at all. They have wrinkles on their nose and their forehead. I often look at them and think, I wonder if the Star Wars character, I forget what his name was, where he had wrinkles on his forehead, I wonder if they got that idea from the people, the Gentrans. And so those are the three. The ship that I went on board was a Pleiadian ship. I landed right in the control center and, was immediately escorted away. And just, they're very gracious, very, very gracious. And I said, I need some answers. And so we had this brief conversation, and that, I need to know, what are we facing here? What's happening? And the answer was that until people woke up, they would suffer, period. So that was the bottom line of the conversation. I think my own work, my own efforts to teach people to expand their consciousness, is really, I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's making an impact. I think it's very, very interesting. that I landed in Kalamazoo because this is one of the strongholds of Pfizer, and it's also one of the experimental cities for 5G. Why that combination? When I asked myself that question some time ago, the answer was because they're going to use...
Well, hold on. Watch your words. Watch your words. This is a tough one. And Janine and I just tackled this on a pay-per-view tonight, folks. Okay. It's going to be on the Insider Access Pass. And we were looking at that concert because a lot of people said they were feeling something weird energetically in the air too. And we were asking if perhaps they were testing some type of activation method through some of these wavelengths to activate the people who had taken some different products, let's say it that way.
Okay.
Exactly
well,
what you're alluding to.
What I was going to say a little differently.
Okay, yes, please.
Those two things are in this region. Why was Kalamazoo chosen to be one of the centers of 5G experimentation and setup?
Mm.
You know, when I asked that question, it was because they're going to use it to get rid of all the Pfizer people. So it's like, oh, you do not have to have gotten the injectable for that 5G to have a profound impact on your system. And I was just reading the data from various cities of how much the death rate increased when 5G was turned on in each city where it was introduced. It was like, oh, wow. I mean, it was not a small number. It was in the thousands.
Yes, but just to be clear, those are all conspiracy theories. There's absolutely nothing connecting these towers with any death. No, go away, folks. That's absolute hogwash.
Yeah.
We can't even talk about that. It's been debunked so many times. Let's keep going here on the language.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, Penny. Okay.
Okay.
Man, where do we end the show? Oh, well, let me tell you about my story first. Okay, so I landed on this control center, kind of just like you, and it was kind of funny because the people that were there were all very tall, humanish looking, but you could tell they were off looking to me, but just like close enough that humanoid is kind of close enough that I didn't freak out. Although there was one or two of the crew member that I absolutely could not like. What is that? Him, I couldn't I didn't know what they were, but they were really nice to me. And the main person was not in the room yet at this point, and so they were entertaining the fact, and they were kind of like, how'd you get here? Like they were kind of like, I don't know, I just popped in here, this is so cool. And I was asking them questions and they were kind of answering me, and then suddenly the main guy came into the room and he was like, he's not supposed to be in here, guys. You know the rules. We're going to get in so much trouble. And the way he was downloading that message to me is that it had something to do with either a treaty of sorts where they would also get in trouble for breaching that treaty of taking a human on board, and the other part was, or I would get in trouble because I would suddenly be put on some type of radar if they knew that I could do that or something. Of course, now I'm saying this on YouTube. But anyways, that was the feeling I got. And he was not too happy, but he was kind of like, he was projecting this anger and this like stern kind of thing. But at the same time, he was kind of laughing and giggling because he was like, oh, it's cool to see you again type of thing. It was just weird like that. And then suddenly I woke back in my bed. Yeah, so it was a weird one.
Very nice. Yeah, I have found that they rarely lose their temper. They very much self-disciplined. Yeah. Years ago when I got upset with them and was shouting at them, how dare they give up on us, that was not going to happen, and they had no business giving up. They were uncomfortable, but they maintained their own composure.
Yeah.
So that
he wasn't angry. He was more. He was kind of like, what was the expression? He was trying to convey to his staff, like, guys, we're gonna get in trouble. Like, this is all cool. I know you're excited to talk to him or whatever, but we just can't do this, guys. Anyways,
Yeah.
he was agitated, I guess, and not angry, but he was trying to project to me like the stern, I'm the commander, blah 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 thing. But at the same time, he was kind of laughing about it himself and not taking it too seriously, but still taking it seriously enough that, okay, guy, dude, you got to go now.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
I was wondering who they were. I don't know who they were, where they were from, and all that. But I never got the feeling that they were a danger to me or humanity. That never even crossed my mind. Their frequency was so loving, engaging, and what's that word? Hospitality. Like, had that rule not been in place, whatever that rule that they were trying to abide from, they were like, dude, you're here. Let's have a party. Let's eat. Let's drink. Let's talk. Let's they just wanted to chill, and share. That's the feeling I got from the crew, anyways.
Yeah. Anyways. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right, folks. I think that's it for the show tonight. And Penny, is there anything else? Yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to share tonight that you think is absolutely? I think we went through the list that you gave me before the show. Was there anything else that maybe crossed your mind?
No, I think that was basically it. I saw in the chat somebody saying, "When is the micronova?" The date that they are estimating is the year 2047. So it's about 25 years from now. Mm-hmm. If it's 25 years early, then, then it'll be what? 2025 or 2024 or 2027, somewhere in there. Or it could be slightly after 2047. So don't panic. Mm-hmm. Get your consciousness together. We just need to all come together at the same time. We will know when it's getting close because the sun goes through certain specific changes that are visible. So.
Somebody in the chat says, the Office of Temporal Enforcement will be visiting you shortly. Uh-oh. The Office of Temporal Affairs. Mr. Anderson.
Very good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, they do enforce certain things. So yeah.
Well, can I tell you another one?
Yeah.
Do you have time?
Yeah.
This other one was like this last story I just told you was a bigger craft. Yeah. I don't know, judging by the bridge or whatever, the control room was really big. So this other story I have now, it was a small, like, scout 1-2 person craft type of thing, very small. And it was just this one guy piloting it. And he literally looked like a typical, what you would call a surfer dude, like good tan, blonde, curly hair, big ass white smile, like just like a, hey dude, like super relaxing. And anyways, so I'm on his ship. He actually came down to Earth, so I didn't jump like the other one. He actually came here. Okay. And so I'm on his ship, and I'm like, hey man, can I visit some stuff? Like, I'm watching all these videos about inner Earth and blah blah blah. Can you kind of show me around? I want to see more of this planet. Where are we exactly? Yeah. And so his way of communicating to me, which was hilarious and it struck me, is that all of his answers were kind of in the format of lines from movies that I liked as a kid. Oh, really? So it's kind of like his way of making me feel comfortable and being connected to our culture, basically. So he was quoting, if they build it, they will come, like a baseball movie or whatever, like stuff like that. And he was like delivering everything as a da-dum-dum, like a funny joke kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyways, he was really cool. Showed me a whole bunch of stuff. And then we got further out somewhere, wherever that was. I don't know. Were we further in or further out? I at this point, I don't recall, because he showed me quite a few things. And he also, at some point, he looked like he was nervous. And so either it was a time thing, that we had spent too much time, or that we had crossed some type of barrier again, which would get him in trouble for having me on board. And so he was in a quick rush to get me back, because suddenly he was nervous about not necessarily my safety, but something, again, a weird treaty of sorts or an agreement of sorts that I can't explain. It was kind of telepathically communicated to me. I don't know what it was. Do you know what that is? When you said you broke the rules, why is that rule in place for you? How does that maybe relate?
Well, there are certain places that you cannot, or you are not, or we are not welcome. I've had some experiences where it's like, what are you doing here? And same thing. I wanted to see what was out here, that kind of thing. And there's a very clear mood or attitude of disapproval. I don't know what the criteria for that is, but I do know that I've run into that more than once.
This lady says, "Hey, how about that show, Mork and Mindy?" Yeah, kinda, I guess. But no, this guy didn't look at all like Mork and Mindy. He was more. You could tell he was a military chap, but trying to pretend that he was slouching his shoulders. But still, you could tell. Oh no, this guy is a ramrod military guy, but he's just trying to be chill. Mork and Mindy was just like a crazy, like goofy guy.
I never saw Mork and Mindy, but I heard about it and. Something about the third rock from the sun or something.
Oh, that's another show on TV with.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, that's a different show. That was funny too. What was that guy's name? Oh my god. Anyways, that was a funny show too. But thank you, Jacqueline, for that. No, my God was really a ramrod military guy pretending to slouch, but you could tell he wasn't a sloucher by any means.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to be funny to make me feel comfortable, but he was still gauche in his approach. Like I could tell he was trying really, really hard just so that I wouldn't be afraid or be uncomfortable.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They read you because they're very telepathic. And then they try to find some way to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And when they copy that, it's totally unnatural for them.
Right.
Like, okay.
Well, what was that? Is it Terminator 3 or 4? At some point, Arnold Schwarzenegger tries to laugh, and everybody says, "Don't do that. It looks creepy, man." It's 4. Anyway, he's scary as hell when he's laughing.
Okay. Oh my god.
At any rate, this surfer dude guy, he ended up giving me a book, and it was an etheric book of sorts. And apparently I read from it from time to time because I have dreams about the book. And the way the book works is when you open it, it's empty. But when you open it with the intention, suddenly it's like the pages are metallic, like chrome. Yeah. They kind of form into the words or the images or holographic you're supposed to read. Have you ever come across this book or anything like that?
A lot of times. Yeah. The book appears or the words appear in response to whatever it is you're holding, your question, the thing that you're curious about, the thing you most need to know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, I wish I had this book right now to show you guys how cool it is. But it's a big book. Like it would look like a Bible, like pretty thick, like a kind of book like that. But like a metallic. I want to say chrome, or no. What's that other thing in a thermometer? Mercury.
Mercury.
It looks like mercury. Like it's a liquid kind of book, and it takes form. Anyways, maybe next time I'll take a picture if they let me. I'll show you guys.
Yeah, that's quite a gift. That's a very good gift because that gives you permission to write your own story.
That, and they said that I had used this book in previous incarnations. So there's something of a log inside of this book of like missions or past missions and maybe current missions too that at the right time I get to unlock for some reason.
Oh my. John Locke. Okay. No wonder you're interested in crypto and money and finance and all that. Gosh.
I don't know. There's something about it. There's definitely something about it. All right, folks. Oh, man, what a crazy show tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe here on Penny Kelly on her YouTube channel. You can find her, of course, also at Consciousness on Fire. This is the book where she was talking about the solar flashes. It's Consciousness and Energy number 4. If you're just starting here, I recommend you probably start with the robes. I had it earlier on the screen. That's where this whole story starts. Maybe try that book. And if not, maybe start with the Tea and Consciousness here on Penny Kelly's Patreon channel. There, of course, you'll get a lot of this information and it'll get you to dive into the subject matter. And talking about subject matter, do you have courses available or are there new courses coming up online here for the audience?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Number one is on my list of to-do things is really working on a book called The Revival, which is a handbook for actually, working with people to create the new world or to envision or to get into it. The other thing is I've got a class on, it's kind of a combination of how I do numbers, people's birth numbers, how that whole system works. It's partly numerology, it's partly tarot, it's partly intuition. And it's a system that I developed over years and I still use it. So we're recording that this week and putting that out. And then, of course, there's all the intuition classes. We have a big intuition class that we're going to open up in January because we're so far behind. The waiting list is too big, too long. So,
and to get a leg up on these classes, guys, maybe subscribe to Penny's newsletter. There, at least, that's probably the best way, right, to get onto the list.
Yeah, because they do sell out right away.
Right. Okay, so you can find that newsletter here on consciousnessonfire.com.
Yeah.
Folks, that was a Breaking the Cloud. Funny episode today. It was a really cool conversation. Really love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And merci beaucoup, Penny. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you guys soon. Have a great evening, everyone. Au revoir.